How's it going, YouTube? Welcome to the Vaylantz archetype. There is a lot to unpack with this deck. It is one of the most complicated decks Konami has ever produced, which is why I took it upon myself to spend the last month playing nothing but Vaylantz. And I'm going to bring to you guys my thoughts on what I think of the deck list that I think works best, but mainly I'm going to be going over the effects of all the cards and just trying to get more people to understand how this deck works. So, if you're not familiar with Vaylantz, let me start at the basics. It is a new pendulum deck that was released in Tactical Masters, and all of the monsters in the main deck are scale 1, and all the monsters in the extra deck are scale 8 or 10. Or 12 now. There's now a level 12. But, you might be thinking, how do you play a pendulum deck that only has scale 1s? Well, it doesn't really work like any other pendulum deck that's been introduced to the game. All the Vaylantz monsters have different effects that let them special to summon themselves from the pendulum zones onto the field. They all have an effect that they get if they're special summoned, and then they have another effect that they get when they're moved from one zone to another. So, let me start by going over the first 8 main deck monsters. You have your 4 water Vaylantz and your 4 fire Vaylantz. Each have a level 2, a level 4, a level 6, and a level 8. Yeah, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get started with the level 2 water Vaylantz monster, Shinonome, the Vaylantz Priestess. I'm not really giving my opinions on the cards yet, but Shinonome is your best card in your deck. This is your starter, instant 3 of. You want to see this in your starting hand 10 out of 10 times. So, for the pendulum effect, the level 2s and the level 4s all have the same pendulum effect. If this card is in your... you can special summon this card to a main monster zone if it's in the pendulum zone. So, you put this card in your pendulum zone, you special summon it, it's a free special summon. But then it locks you into Vaylantz monsters from the main deck. That's fine, you're only going to be going into your extra deck and climbing from there. So, yeah, that's the pendulum effect for all the level 2s and 4s. The level 6s and 8s are a little different, but we're going to get into those later. So, the card text. During your main phase, if you control a special summon card, add a Vaylantz spell from deck to hand. Perfect. You can add either your field spell or solo activation, which is such a good card. It is the support that this deck needed. It's going to be released in Darkwing Blast, which is why I can't bring you guys a physical deck right now. I will in the future, so if you want to see that, please consider subscribing to the channel. But yeah. Adding a card like Solo Activation, Activate Solo Activation, lets you add another Vaylantz monster from your deck to your Pendulum Zone. And then if this card is moved from one zone to another, you can add a Vaylantz monster, except Shinonome, from your deck to hand. So this card just gives you so much value. It gives you access to every single Vaylantz card in your deck. Yeah, I just can't say enough good things about Shinonome. Plus, it's level 2, and you know what that means. There is sprite compatibility with this deck. I personally haven't messed around with sprites too much, but I'm sure there's some crazy combos that you guys can do. So, we're going to go ahead. We're going to move to the level 4. We're going to make our way through the water Vaylantz, then go through the fire Vaylantz. But we have our level 4 Scion, the Vaylantz Archer. Same pendulum effect as Shinonome. And then if you control a special summoned monster, target an effect monster on the field, toss a coin, which is such a rare effect to find these days. If it's heads, negate the effect, and if it's tailed, half the attack. This is a really good going second card, because, I mean, you just put it in your pendulum zone, special summon it, and you target one of your opponent's negates. They have to use that negate, because if they don't, or they also have to use the effect if it's not even a negate that you want to get rid of, they have to use that effect right there, because they have to use it before the coin flips. So, if it's heads, well, then they lose that monster effect altogether. So they might as well use it to negate the effect of Vaylantz Archer, because it also has another good effect. Because when it's moved from one zone to another, target a card in the field, toss another coin, and if it's heads, destroy it. If it's tails, return it to the hand. So both ways, you're getting your removal. Yeah, it's a really good going second card. Just by itself, it has a negate. It has a bounce back to hand. It has a destruction effect, and it can half the attack of something. So, yeah, it's a pretty good going second card. So next we're going to move on to Natsuki, the Vaylantz Ninja. This is another really amazing Vaylantz card. But the pendulum effect for the level 6 and the level 8s are a little different. For the waters, you need a water Vaylantz already on the field or the water field zone. If you want to special summon the level 6 or higher fire Vaylantz, you need a fire Vaylantz on the field or the corresponding fire field spell. Which is fine because you can have both field spells on the field at the same time, which I'll get into that later. But yeah, that's the pendulum effect for the level 6s and level 8s. And then its effect, you could target one monster in either monster zone and move it to a different monster zone. So this is how you're going to get your moving effects. You use this effect, you target Shinonome, you move Shinonome over one, then you get Shinonome's searching effect for a Vaylantz monster. And then, if this card is moved from a monster zone to another monster zone, target a Vaylantz monster in your spell and trap card zone, special summon it. So there's a lot of ways to get your Vaylantz monsters into the spell and trap card zone. So moving Natsuki is just a great way to get them there and get them back onto the field so you can continue your combo. And then lastly, for the water Vaylantz, we have Hojo, the Vaylantz Warrior. Same pendulum effect as Natsuki. And for the card text, if this card is special summon, you can target a face-up card in either spell and trap card zone, return it to the hand. So Konami is finally giving us ways to deal with floodgates. But then, and this is the reason you play Hojo for the second effect, if it's moved from one zone to another, you can fusion summon a Vaylantz monster from your extra deck. So this is a really good effect. I really wish they gave you more ways to access your fusion monsters. Although for 2 of the 3 extra deck Vaylantz monsters that are currently in the game, 2 of which can be cheated out in a way other than fusion, but you do need Hojo's effect if you want to go into our 3rd fusion monster, which we'll get into later. But now we're going to go ahead and start with the fire Vaylantz monsters. So going all the way back to level 2, remember level 2s have the same effect as Shinonome and Scion, so they can just special summon themselves out of the pendulum zone. If this card is special summoned, target a Vaylantz monster in your main monster zone, move it to another one. So it has the exact same special summon effect that Natsuki has. It's just great. It's a really good effect for this deck, obviously, so you want to put it on 2 cards, I guess. And then, if this card is moved to another monster zone, target one card in either player pendulum zone, put it face up in an adjacent spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. This one kind of sucks. I don't know. You basically play Baron for the first effect. But I guess I could come up theoretically. And here we have Vaylantz Voltage Viscount. Same special summon effect as Shinonome, Scion, and Baron, but for its card text, really, really good card text, by the way. You want to pay attention to Viscount. You can place a Vaylantz. You can place one face of Vaylantz Pendulum Zone from your extra deck to your spell and trap card zone. So you can pull things back, recycle material, put them in your spell and trap card zone, and then use a bunch of other effects from Vaylantz to get them back from the pendulum zone into the main monster zone. And then you can place one face-up pendulum monster from your extra deck in your pendulum zone. So just another way, you grab that card, you put it in your pendulum zone, and you can get your effects. And just remember, you use this effect, you grab one of your basically any of your Vaylantz monsters, you put it in your pendulum zone, and you could special summon that back, and you just get more effects. So it's a really, really good level 4 for the deck. Alright, and next we have my favorite Fire Vaylantz, Vaylantz Mad Marquise. Same special summon effect as the level 6s and the level 8s that I talked about before. And this is your dice rolling effect. I love this deck. It has coin flips and dice rolling, but it's actually really good. So during your main phase, you can roll a 6-sided dice, excavate that many cards, and you can add a Vaylantz monster that you find. So you roll a 5, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add a Vaylantz monster you find in your hand. You're playing a lot of Vaylantz monsters. So odds are you're gonna hit. And then, if this card is moved from one monster zone to another, roll a 6-sided die. If it's 2 through 5, special summon a monster from your spell and trap card zone into its same column. This one could use some work. I don't know why it had to be a 1/3 chance of failure. Because other Vaylantz monsters just have the effect to special summon from the spell and trap card zone. I know they wanted to stick with the dice rolling gimmick with a Scion and Marquise. It's unreliable, and I don't like unreliability. Because the thing with Scion, and why the first effect of Marquise are so good, is because odds are what you want to happen will happen. This is actually like a significant margin of error where you could mess up. So I'm not really using the second effect, but that first effect makes Marquise absolutely worth playing at least a 2 of, max a 3 of, obviously. But, okay, now we're going to move on to the final main deck Vaylantz monster, Vaylantz Dominator Duke. This is your level 8. I'm going to say it again because it's the last one. Same special summon effect as the other level 6s and the level 8s. And then you can target a set card, if this card is special summon, and that card cannot be activated this turn, which is really good. Get rid of all those battle traps. Who wants to lose to magical cylinders in this game? But no, yeah, stop your opponent from activating any of those counter traps. This forces out things like Solemn Strike, Solemn Judgment. So, yeah. Pretty good effect. And then this is the one I love, the second effect. If it's moved from one zone to another, target a face-up monster your opponent controls and take control of it. You can't activate its effects or attack, but it is treated as a Vaylantz monster. So you can use it for your fusions. You can just link it off. You can overlay if you get a level 8. Yeah, a lot of great things. I love stealing opponents' monsters. It is my favorite thing to do in this game. But yeah, that's all of the main deck Vaylantz monsters. So, now let's start with the spells. Vaylantz Vacating Solo Activation. This was the card that the deck needed. It wasn't released in Tactical Masters with all the other cards. It's going to be released, I think from when I'm recording this, in a couple days in Darkwing Blast. But place one Vaylantz Pendulum monster from your deck to your Pendulum Zone. 99% of the time, you're going to be searching for Shinonome because Shinonome is the best Vaylantz monster. And then you can use this effect the same turn you activate this. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target a Vaylantz monster, and move it to a horizontal zone. So this is just another way that the Vaylantz deck is giving you the option to move your cards from one zone to another, which is amazing. This card is so good. It gives you so much value. I can't say enough amazing things about solo activation. But there is one other normal spell in the deck. And we have Vaylantz Ward's Place of the Beginning. So you can add a Vaylantz Field spell, which we'll get to in a second, from your deck to your hand, and then you have a second optional effect where you can destroy a pendulum monster you control, add Senate Switch from your deck to your hand. And then it has a graveyard effect. So you can't activate this the turn that it was sent there, but banish a card, put a Vaylantz Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your Pendulum Zone, which is another great way to revive your material. But I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking, what is Senate Switch? So it is this super old card, and they actually have it in the Relateds tab, Senate Switch. Once per turn during main phase, you can move a monster to an adjacent zone, unoccupied zone. This was a card that was made like forever ago, but for some reason they just, I mean, it's a great card. You would play this regardless if it searched it or not, but it's just nice to see Konami acknowledging some of the older cards and trying to move them back into the competitive scene. I'm going to get to, at the end of this video, why I think Vaylantz can be a competitively viable deck, but, you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. But what we really need to look at are the field spells. Now, it's tough to introduce the field spells because to introduce one, you kind of have to introduce the other. Because when one is activated, you take the other field spell and you place it in your opponent's field spell zone, destroying whatever may be there. So just get rid of that Mystic Mine. So yeah, this deck pretty good against Mystic Mine, because you activate your field spell and you just pop their Mystic Mine. But let me see if I can do a good job of saying what they do. So, Kong Wizen. This is the field spell for your Fire Vaylantz. So, if you control a monster in a main monster zone, and directly across the field, there is a monster in that same column, you can activate the effect of Kong Wizen and push your opponent's monster back into the spell and trap card zone, destroying whatever card may be there. So basically, your opponent's monsters just kind of no-clip into the back rooms and are stuck there. Kind of. And then you have Sharabancho. This is your field spell for your Water Vaylantz. And then this just says, if a monster is in your spell and trap card zone, use the effect, special summon to the field. But the wording on these cards are a little weird, because it says the turn player can activate this effect. Not if you control a Vaylantz monster, the turn player. So your opponent can use Shirabancho to get any cards back that were sent by Kong Wizen, which is, in my opinion, one of the biggest downfalls of this deck. If you're playing against an opponent that knows what the Vaylantz cards do, especially the field spells, they can use cards like Kong Wizen against you and send your cards back to the spell and trap card zone, which is fine because the Vaylantz monsters have effects that special summon themselves back, but it's whatever. That's why I turned this deck into an OTK deck. I'm getting ahead of myself again. That's why I think this deck is really good at OTKing, because Kong Wizen is such a strong effect, and you just don't want your opponent to use it against you. But that's everything for the main deck. Now we're going to get to the extra deck. We have Momonoke, the Vaylantz United. This is the only fusion monster that requires the fusion effect of Hojo. Or I guess any fusion effect, but this is the only... Hojo's the only in archetype fusion ability. But during your main phase quick effect, target an effect monster your opponent controls, place that card in the continuous spell and trap card zone of the same column. Like I said, you use this effect, you push it back, but your opponent does have the ability to use the field spell to get it back out. So it's just really good for disruption. Or, you know what you can do? Not activate the field spell. That's also a really good option. But, yeah, if this card is special summoned, if this card is destroyed, you can put it in your spell and trap card zone. So that's how you get a really nice 10 in your pendulum zone. But, yeah. Oh, and for the pendulum effect, special summon this card so it has the same effect. And then you can... It also has a moving effect for pendulum, but that's whatever. Now, I want to show you guys the MVP of the extra deck, which is Vaylantz Genesis Grand Duke. This guy is your OTK enabler, another 10 for scale, but it requires 2 Vaylantz monsters, or, this is such a complex effect and I don't know why, you contribute a level 5 or higher non-fusion Vaylantz in the same column as the extra monster zone. So if you have a level 5 or higher Vaylantz in either column 2 or column 4, you contribute it and special summon Grand Duke. I don't know why they made it so complicated. I don't know why they didn't just Thunder Dragon Colossus and just say tribute it and put it onto the field. That would have made it such a better card. But the effect is so good that you still think it's the best card in the extra deck. So if this card is special summoned, you can target a monster card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone, return it to the hand. If you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. Then this card gains attack equal to half the damage inflicted. People wonder why no one plays Vaylantz. It's because there's so much reading. So basically, if your opponent has a monster in their spell and trap card zone, return it to the hand, burn for half the attack, and then Archduke gains half of that burn damage as attack points. Yeah, I'm going to show you guys when I do a deck profile why I think Grand Duke is such a good card. And then for the Pendulum Zone, same one as United, so it doesn't really matter. And as for our last Vaylantz card, I think I need like a drink of water. I've been talking so fast. I want to try to go fast because there's so many complicated effects, and I don't want this to be a half-hour video, even though it might end up being half-hour. But we have the one that was just announced a couple days ago, Vaylantz of the Wireframe Abyss, Arctis 12. Same pendulum effect. You can special summon this card by tributing 2 level 5 or higher Vaylantz monsters. In quick effect, you can switch the locations of 2 monsters in your main monster zone or 2 monsters in your opponent's main monster zone. And then, if a monster moves to another monster zone, destroy a card on the field. So it's just another, it's interruption. But we are going to go ahead and get over to the deck list. Okay, so here is the going second Vaylantz deck that I have been using. This deck is able to break sprite boards, Tier Elements boards. It's really good. I know people hype up their own deck lists online, but I am going to build this deck. I'm taking it to locals, and I'm going to let you guys know how I do, but I think this deck is really, really, really freaking good. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce the cards in the deck. You have your 3 Shinonome, your 2 Scion, your 2 Natsuki, and your 1 Hojo. Then you have your 3 Baron, 2 Viscount, 2 Marquise, and your 1 Duke. You can mess around with this for a little bit. Just make sure you have your 3 Shinonome. That's basically the only rule. And I think you need at least 1 Hojo. Mess around with this as much as you want. You can really do any proportions. If you want to take that Scion down to 1, totally get it. If you want to put Marquise or Natsuki up to 3, totally understandable. But you play your 3 solo activation, your 1 place of beginning, and then 2 of each field spell, and of course your 1 Senate switch to be searched off Vaylantz Wars. So that's it for the Vaylantz cards in the main deck. Now let's get into the spice. The spice, and I know everyone's looking at it. Lava Golem. Yes, Lava Golem. This deck does not use its normal summon, so you can use Lava Golem finally. Tribute 2 monsters off your opponent's field and slam this 3k body onto the board. Now, you're probably thinking, how is that like such a good thing? Like, yeah, Lava Golem's good. But how is it that good? Well, you're going to be putting Lava Golem in your opponent's spell and trap card zone with effects like Kong Wizen. Then, you can use Grand Duke's effect, return Lava Golem to the hand, so it would go back to your hand, burn your opponent for 3,000 damage, and then Grand Duke gains 1,500 attack. So instantly, you're burning them for 3,000, then you have Grand Duke on the field, who is a 4k beater. If you can find 1,000 damage anywhere, like just have Scion on your field at any point, it is a perfect OTK strategy. So, yeah. You're also playing 3 Dark Spirit Mastery, discard a card, and you can search Lava Golem, because this is the OTK that you want to go for. It is super easy to OTK if you don't have Lava Golem, but having Lava Golem really helps. I'm playing 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 3 Lightning Storm, 3 Dark Ruler, just breaking those impossible boards that are set up. And then, last but not least, I'm playing a Kaiden Kendo Spirit and a Kuru Obi Karate Spirit, just for things to search that will, they're each 9, so you can get that pendulum summon off. And these are all 1s. So 1, 9, you're going to be able to get everything pendulum summoned. So that's it for the main deck. We're playing 1 Vaylantz United, your 2 Grand Duke. Really, that's all you need. And now I'm playing 1 Abyss Dweller for Tier Element matchups, 1 Gigantic Sprite, because you're playing a lot of Link 2s, you have a lot of level 2s, use Gigantic Sprite, search your Shinonome if you need to. For Links, I'm playing Goddess, Avermex, Apollosa. This one will be removed when the new fusion monster is added. Nightmare Unicorn, Nightmare Phoenix, Selene, 2 Beyond the Pendulum. Beyond the Pendulum is amazing. So good. So good. And last but not least, 1 IP Masquerena, so you can piss off your opponent and make Goddess during their turn and steal one of their monsters. Okay, so, guys, I'm going to make a separate video where I do Vaylantz combos, and I'm going to show you guys the OTK. I don't want this video to go too long, and it's already gone on for a lot longer than I thought it was, but thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions whatsoever about this deck, please let me know in the comments. I would love to answer it. I respond to every comment that's left under my videos, and if you want to see the eventual combo tutorial for this deck, please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you like the video, like the video. It would really help me out. We just passed 200 subscribers, which is kind of something insane to me, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of this deck, and if you think Vaylantz actually has a competitive future in Yu-Gi-Oh! So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.